detective. Thrill me.
Thanks for joining us again for another episode. Maddie, Jared, good to have you on board.
G'day.
No Gibbo again tonight, unfortunately.
He's
We're going back to
he's had a fucking gut full of us. I think.
I think April Fool's Day might have made a snap. He was pretty unhappy about that one. Tonight we're going back to franchise territory. Friend of the show, Ali, once again put forward the Mad Max series. Great idea. Decided to blow the dust off these because I certainly haven't seen them in a long time. So tonight's episode is Mad Max, the original from 1979. Before we get into that though, let's do a quick whip round at what we've been watching. Jared, what have you got on the schedule there?
I got
Is
onto
Hellboy on
a
it?
few. No, I didn't get to Hellboy. I couldn't find the time. I got onto a couple of newer shows. I got onto the new episodes of Game of Thrones.
Ah, yes.
Which is a very enjoyable start to this season, all coming together. I also got onto what's probably one of the best things I've watched in ages is the TV show of What We Do in the Shadows.
Oh, yeah. I
It's
hear that's good.
Fucking hilarious. It's really funny, and it's I actually think some of it might even work better as a movie, as a TV series, because the movie was funny as well. I really liked it, but now you're getting to see these kind of little stories and just stretching it out, like because it's so funny. You can apply it to so many different things. Like it was just it's a very very amusing show. So if you get a chance to check it out, do that. I actually, the kids wanted to watch the Goosebumps movie again, so I ended up watching that again.
Shit. Good movie though, the first one.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
I enjoyed the first one.
It's a good little nod to all the books and everything. I finished the first Mortal Kombat. Got on to the second Mortal Kombat. I watched Annihilation.
How was Annihilation?
It is just awful. Because the first one, I still, as I mentioned last time, the first one still got things that I enjoyed.
Was Christophe Lambert in Annihilation?
No, James Remar took over his role. Gibbo's favourite actor. I then watched Mortal Kombat Legacy, which was the web series they did. It's probably the best one. The production values are pretty good for a web series. Obviously, the effects and that are a bit wanting in certain areas, but the stories and everything, it's a really good way to do it because they basically just take 10 minutes of backstory.
Yeah.
And each character gets a bit of backstory or gets 2 episodes of backstory, and it just works really well. So they actually did a second season of it, which I haven't really watched, but it's all on YouTube. And yeah, I reckon that's probably the best version of it so far. I watched Killing Gunther.
Oh, is that Arnie? That's Arnie.
Well, yeah, Arnie's on the poster. It's
So what? He's not in it.
he's not in it very much. So I guess the concept is that Gunther is like the world's most kind of revered assassin. So all these other assassins get together to knock him off just because they've had enough of him, and they get a documentary crew to follow him. It's not Arnie's best work, I'll put it that way. There's a few laughs to be had there, but it's
Not delivered by Arnie though.
No, Arnie doesn't show up for very very long at all.
That's disappointing because it kind of looked all right.
And his comedy chops are more sort of jingle all the way than
Bloody hell! Let's never have that again.
it's very
Punching bloody reindeers and
very ordinary. I jumped back into Dick Tracy.
Oh, the film.
Movie, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Warren Beatty.
Yeah,
Warren Beatty,
It was
Al
actually
Pacino.
it was a good watch because I hadn't seen it in so long. And it's actually really well done in terms of like, it seems to be matte painting for the backgrounds and things like that. And it's pretty well done in that regard. It was a bit of fun. I hadn't seen it in so long and I just saw it pop up and thought, I better check this out. I got onto 7 Days in Hell. Which
That's a Sam Moon tennis game.
It's the tennis doco because obviously I'd seen Tour de Pharmacy or whatever it was called, bloody Gustav Ditters and all, which I thought was really funny. So I watched this one and it was, again, it's a lot of it is kind of juvenile and stupid, but you end up with a couple of really good laughs out of it. Like at one point they start reconstructing Andy Samberg, like he plays an adopted brother of the Williams sisters. And so at one point he ends up in a Swedish prison for fraud or something like that, and they do the recreations like those was it Japanese news sort of simulations that were popular a few years ago when they couldn't find footage of something they'd simulated. So they do his time in prison in the simulation style, and he's got an abnormally large penis and all this sort of stupid stuff that it's so juvenile, but when it pops up on screen, you just kind of just laugh at it for whatever reason.
Well,
because I'm an idiot.
We do. Most other people turn it off.
But it was worth it. It was worth a chuckle. I liked it. And the last one I got to was Avengers Endgame.
Oh, yeah. Was that good?
So, yeah, it was good. As a film, I probably wouldn't rank it up as one of the best ones, but it's just the fact that it's tying everything up. And yeah, it was pretty engrossing in that regard, and there were some pretty satisfying endings to certain threads that were going on. So, yeah, it was good. I liked it. That was me.
Andy?
Nowhere near as epic as your run, but I've watched Chris Lilly's thing, Lunatics.
Oh.
Have you started that?
No, I'm not a fan of that bloke at all.
Well, look, I thought he was
that bloke is a one-trick pony if I've ever seen one.
Yeah, he was so good I thought he was amazing in the first couple.
His first couple, that's where
he... And just started slipping, and this is just borderline offensive, you know? It is offensive to some people, but for me...
But he's just funny, man.
You're just offended by the lack of laughs.
Look, I'm 5 episodes in and I haven't laughed once, so
shit.
It's a bit
good
sad.
strike rate.
Yeah, but like if you talk to me about the older ones, I'll tell you they were...
The guy has talent,
but because
and he showcased it, and what he produced the first time, where he's playing 6 different characters, it worked, but he keeps trotting it out.
And do you know what I think it is? The characters aren't tied together in any way. I think for the first couple they were tied together. They were all in the school, or they were all looking to this award.
First one?
The Weekend of Heroes.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, and they were all sort of on the same path.
Yep.
And there was a little bit of interaction, but now it's just turned into the jokes are a bit more extreme. Like he's had to take it up a notch to try and get the same effect, and it's just more offensive. I think it would appeal to maybe 12-year-olds. Even though it's R-rated, it would appeal to 12-year-olds because one of the characters is just a bogan that swears, a kid bogan that swears, and they've put him in England, and so it's maybe more extreme than it used to be. I think the subtleties of the old one as well were sort of a nice touch there. So a bit disappointing, and I'll probably ditch it. But I got back into The Office, the American one. I was like, I'd initially only got up to the end of season 7, so I went back to the beginning of season 6. I'm going to go back and finish that off.
That was bloody good. That was actually one of the ones that they got right.
Yeah.
In fact, it pressed things forward.
Yeah, I think it definitely comparable to the English version.
I don't think it was ever. For me personally, David Brent is. I've worked with blokes like David Brent, and it's cringy juicy watching him in action.
Yeah.
But I think that they did a pretty good job with the American.
And just there's a lot of levity in that makes it a bit more human than where some comedies go, where it just laughs. It's got that happy and sad stuff going on.
Yeah.
But even just the side characters are hilarious. Like Creed is just him trying to act younger, pretending he's a skateboarder. It's like saying later skater, and he's dyed his hair. He's just so good. Yeah. I also watched 1922, which is the
Stephen King.
Yeah. It's pretty dark.
Man of the 2000s.
Thomas Jane. Still
starring
near 2020. He's still trying to find that role.
Find a niche. Find a home. So how was it?
It's dark. I did some damage to my psyche this week because I watched that. I also watched Pet Sematary, which I was 20 minutes into watching Pet Sematary, and I'm like, I've got a kid at home. Why did I do this to myself? Yeah. It's just dark.
Is this the new version of Pet Sematary?
Yeah, the new one. So I watched that.
It's exactly what one of my wife's work colleagues who likes horror movies and sends recommendations back and forth. It's exactly what he said. Yeah. He said he used to love the old one, so went into this one, and that's exactly what he thought. He's like, this is too dark now that I've got kids. I felt the same thing. Same with the book.
It would have been funny. It would have been funny before you sort of had any feelings.
Yeah.
To your gruesome feelings. We love was it?
It's, yeah.
Always good to hear.
Before I was a human being, I really enjoyed that movie.
The good thing for me is I've got no feelings still. So, yeah, I'm
Yeah,
happy
you've
to
got a hard
watch this.
stone over there, so you're alright. You can watch anything.
I'm a cold, heartless mongrel.
But and 1922 wasn't much better.
Okay.
So it's
Was it
pretty
a good
much-
film?
Yeah, it's good. Look, it's good. It's well put together, and basically the premise is a guy and his son decide to kill a wife that wants to leave them. So the mum that wants to leave them, and just the effect that has, as opposed to what the expectation was to what the reality is when you do something like a horrible act like that. So everything goes.
You
wrong
got
for that
Thomas
bloke.
Jane, winner.
Bingo.
So that's basically me.
That's it?
There was some what's the name of that show? Raina James. There's like a country western thing on that my wife's watching at the moment, and that was better than Chris Lilly. But anyway, keep on. I'm sure.
Well, I went on a Stephen King binge as well. I finished 11/22/63.
Yep.
Enjoyed it. It was not on.
What is it?
par
I don't
with-
know what that is.
It's the book where they find a wormhole from 2016. They go back to 1960.
All right, cool.
And then he starts you can stay in 1960 for it'll keep going forward. So they decide to interfere with the death of JFK.
Yeah.
The book is fantastic.
Yeah, I've just started listening to it on Audible.
The series was good, but it just felt perhaps even a little bit too long. There's a lot there, and
Which is interesting because the book is
It's dense.
quite massive.
but there were
Like, there's a
episodes
lot-
where you're kind of sitting there just going, let's hurry up, let's move
Yeah.
on. Still good though, still good. I watched Storm of the Century, which is one of my personal favourite King TV series, and it's all about this storm that cuts off this little island, and this bloke just appears and he starts saying to him, "Give me what I want, and I'll go away." And then obviously it's about what he wants and how the town's going to deal with it. I loved it. It was written specifically by him for TV, like not as a book.
Yeah.
I then watched the Salem's Lot miniseries. It's Rob Lowe. I believe you rubbed elbows with the bloke
He ran past me while he was filming. Filming
in
that
Melbourne.
in
Yes.
Melbourne. He jogs past me and I said, "That's Rob Lowe." And my wife goes, "Shit, where?" And then she turns back to me and goes, "Who's Rob Lowe?"
I love the fact that there was excitement in the air.
Yeah, there was
She
excitement.
didn't know who the bloke was, but she assumed he might.
Yeah, she loves to spot a celeb, so there's this initial kind of, "Oh shit," and then she's, I don't know who he is. So
Look, I enjoyed it. It lacks the. I remember reading the book,
Yeah.
and there's a sequence in the book where the Doctor and Ben are trying to work out what's going on, and the fucking thing comes back to life on the table and attacks them. And I remember reading it and holding my breath while I read it.
Yeah.
It was really intense the way he had it written, and the miniseries just couldn't replicate anything like that. It's not very scary. It's not very suspenseful. It's reasonably faithful to the book,
Yeah.
but good try, but nothing special. And it's good to hear that James Wan is actually going to produce a remake of it, of Salem's Lot. Once again, Stephen King
one King, the two blokes.
pulls some lever and all his money falls out.
Yeah, the two blokes, James Wan and Stephen King, the two blokes that need another series in the works to really get.
Yeah. Couple of blokes hard up for some hard up for money and attention.
They get bored if they weren't doing something,
I watched Cujo.
Yeah.
I actually think they
I
did.
haven't seen that in years.
They did a fantastic using the actual dog. The fact that it's 1984 or whatever it was, you had to actually use the dog, and they did a pretty good job making that a sort of a fierce presence. I would love to see it. There's a lot of extra stuff to it, like she's having an affair, and there's all this crap going on about that, and I think it could have used a bit of the Jaws treatment, which was when they took the book of Jaws, they
Did
cut
some of
out all
that.
this bullshit about affairs and the mob and all this, and it's simply an A to B action adventure. I could see this being is a lean and mean survival story, basically. The dog trapped where she was, because that's the bit that works.
Yeah, that's
The last half an hour is really good.
topical these days too.
So it'll be interesting to see someone have another crack at it.
Yeah, you know, with King, it's never just about the dog or the
No.
clown or the, it's,
Yeah, there's more.
it's representing something. you
Yeah.
know.
I mean, that's the one of the books he can't remember.
I wonder what Maximum Overdrive is representing. What the,
I think it represents cocaine. Because, but Cujo, so there's a great thing about Cujo, I think, well, not a great thing, is that he's not as heavily tied to it because he doesn't remember writing it
Yeah,
because
yeah.
he was high as a kite.
He also said, I read an interview recently when they asked him about the changes for Pet Cemetery, and basically said, my attitude to that these days is very mercenary. If someone comes to me and says, I'm going to change this, I say, yeah, whatever, I'm interested to see your take, and if it's fucked up, I start saying, oh, what did you do that for, and all that sort of stuff, but at least they're taking chances. And
Yeah. And then I watched the first 4 episodes of Mr. Mercedes, which is another King series,
Bill
which
Hodges.
is really good.
So prolific.
Really good. Actually, I really love the book, and I think they've done a really good job of replicating it. And then I watched The Twilight Zone, first episode of Twilight Zone.
Oh, yeah, I watched that as well, actually.
Look, it was okay.
It was okay.
Nothing special.
Left me wanting more,
Yeah.
but it wasn't.
You can
a real
see where
classic.
they're going with this, and
Yeah.
and it's going to possibly have some legs. It could
Yeah.
be quite good. It was nothing groundbreaking though.
No.
Same vein as normal Twilight Zone, or
Yeah,
previous?
similar type of
Yeah,
thing.
yeah, it was. I mean, you could see where they were going. You could see them really nailing some of these stories and finding a couple of those real gems like the original Twilight Zone. But I mean, you go back and watch that, and there's some stinkers, amongst it as
Plenty.
well. But there's a couple of the Howling Man and the Time Enough at Last, those ones that you just remember. So I think hopefully they give it a fair crack. Unfortunately, we won't get to watch it for a while because I'm not paying Channel 10 $10 a month to
Mate,
watch.
those
something.
blokes are way too late on that
Yeah,
train.
you should have put it.
I'm
on.
not paying another $10 a month. You
Especially
can-
when they put.
especially when there's nothing else.
Well, they put the first one on free to air, and then they're gonna give us wall to wall fucking Bachelor in Paradise and not play the Twilight Zone. So my response to that is, you can stick your $10, and I'll wait for DVD.
And that the other one was we watched Bad Mums.
Yep.
Yeah. Look, it was all right. It was all right. I got some laughs. I got some laughs out of Bad Mums.
Mila Kunis. It can't be horrible.
Yeah. Mila Kunis and Kristen Bell and that. That's exactly what I expected. But for the first hour, it was quite amusing.
Yeah.
Once they start trying to, how they always do, learn a lesson in these movies, it usually goes off the rails. But that's me. All right, let's take a break. Here's the trailer for 1979's Mad Max.
In the not-too-distant future, there will be no civilization. There will be no heroes.
They say people don't believe in heroes anymore. Well, damn them. You and me, Max. We're gonna give them back their heroes.
In the not-too-distant future, there will only be madmen and the main force patrol. Max is a main force officer trying to protect his family and stay alive. His only weapon, 600 horses of fuel-injected vengeance. Mad Max, the maximum force of the future.
Mad Max from 1979, directed by George Miller, who also directed Happy Feet, strangely enough. Produced by Byron Kennedy. Stories by George Miller, Byron Kennedy, and the screenplay was by George Miller and James McCausland. It stars Mel Gibson as Max, Joanne Samuel as Jessie, Hugh Keysburn as Toe Cutter and Steve Bisley as Jim Goose. The estimated budget was $350,000. Box office, I think it said about $8.5 million in the US, but it says that there's like $100 million worldwide it's made. It probably did really well, I think, on home video when it first came out. The guy who played Johnny the Boy was so into the character that he annoyed everyone on set and was abandoned one day during lunch while handcuffed to the wreck.
I believe he was also Canberra.
Oh, was he?
Yeah.
Oh.
I think so.
Interesting. All right. Jared, your thoughts, mate?
It's such a balls to the wall movie. Like, it's a little bit left of centre. Like, I can imagine someone from America watching a movie like this and just going, what are these blokes saying? Like, it's such a kind of, it's got that Australian vibe from that time period of that kind of the language and the fucking loose units that, you know, you go to the pub and get into a fight on a Saturday night and all that sort of bullshit. But the action is just unbelievable. And it's funny to watch, like, it's funny to read about George Miller being nervous to shoot the action because he'd never done it before, and then he produces stuff like this, which is still pretty much the gold standard of this stuff. It's fucking unbelievable. It's also unbelievable that he didn't end up in court on a fucking manslaughter charge at some point after inadvertently killing somebody, because I don't know how they didn't. Especially, you know, having seen a little bit about it, like, if you watch this, it's essential to watch Not Quite Hollywood and see that it was just bloody guerrilla style. They didn't have permits. They were just going places and fucking...
Find an empty street.
Yeah.
We're shooting a scene.
So, yeah, it's in that context, it's a friggin' marvel that they got it done. But it's so exhilarating for like long stretches. And they actually... Considering that the plot is just bare bones revenge kind of stuff, they actually kind of nail a couple of the emotional moments to get the stakes really high. So I reckon I'll probably go 4. A little bit of the money that wasn't there that kind of shows in a few parts, but it's unbelievable what they got done for how they did it.
Matty?
Yeah, I'm with Jared. A lot of it has, it's like the pace is sort of a bit slow at the beginning and then just escalates and goes
Not for the first 10 minutes.
Yeah. There's parts like when they're just like where everyone's just hanging around the town and but then it just kicks into gear, and including some of the funniest little bits on the side, which is something. It's an accomplishment that you can have these little characters doing these stupid little things, and then it turns into an action movie that enthralls you in a different way. Yeah. Plus, it was going to be 3.5, but Cookie's in it from Country Practice.
No. He's in the sequel. He's in the next one. He's in the next one. That's an extra half star.
Yeah, Cookie gets a half star on his own. I wish he had, I wish he had time to call someone Boxhead or something.
No, but even it's a well put together story. So it's like you've got your twist. That's satisfying as well. Yeah. At the end of it, so I really enjoyed it. And
look, I mean, in the best possible way, George Miller's a fucking lunatic, because some of that shit in the first 10 minutes is... I mean, I reckon his style was just... Did someone die there? No, everyone's all right. Get back in there. I mean, it's honestly classic Australian cinema that would probably one of the most well-known Australian films ever. The action stuff is... mate, you can take your Fast and the Furious for me. This stuff is all legit, and barring speeding up the footage a couple of times, they all seem to be going pretty quick.
It's funny you say that, because I think some of the best parts of the Fast and the Furious are clearly influenced by this stuff.
Oh, really?
Like some of the later stuff in like Fast 5, which they do for real, is clearly influenced by this and shot in similar ways. And gives you that same kind of exhilaration. Like, I couldn't give a fuck about cars. I don't spend any time on cars whatsoever. I barely know what car I drive, let alone what someone else is driving. So to watch a movie that's, it's all about, you got V8s, we got this and that. I don't give a shit about that, but when you get behind the wheel and the engine starts going, and they're fucking flying down the road at 100 miles an hour, I'm edge of the seat, mate. I'm clenched up. Like, this is exciting, you know?
I mean, it's shot on an extremely small budget and with absolutely zero regard for anyone's safety, whether it was other people on the road.
That's the difference. They probably care if they kill someone in the Fast and the Furious.
Yeah, they're going, oh shit. The action scenes are just incredible. And the plot, like you, they use minimal scenes to convey just enough to raise the stakes and showcase that Max cares for some of these characters, and when they go, it resonates. It's a great piece of work. Even considering it's how old now? It's almost 40 years old.
Yeah, 40. They actually had the 40th anniversary, and they did events in all the places it was shot around Victoria and Clunes and things like that.
It's phenomenal stuff. 4 out of 5 for me. The first like is the action scenes are basically second to none. Like to think that this was his first movie, I believe it was his first movie.
Yeah, I think they'd done little things prior to that, but this was like the first.
Thank God it was Grant Page and blown a few things.
Yeah, Grant Page, noted fucking lunatic, made a career as a stuntman because he was happy to just look at something and say, I'll jump off that. Or
I love that he cut his teeth on the Mad Max films just so he can make the things that he's really passionate about, like Babe.
That's it.
I was watching it the whole time, just going, he made a pig movie.
You know, when you get a couple of pigs in Babe racing around the paddock, he's so similar to the
Same sort of thing.
Well, it's funny that this bloke has made this post-apocalyptic series of films that are very difficult to shoot. His worst experience was on Witches of Eastwick, working with Peter. What's his name? The producer that manhandles everyone.
Bloody John Peters.
That was his worst experience in film.
Yeah.
Considering it's that old, that opening 10 minutes, it was like an absolute
crazy.
When a little kid walks out in the middle of the road, I thought, is he going to die?
And he did such a good job of mixing up it's almost like the release of tension that the kid didn't get hit by a car was better than if the kid got cleaned up.
Yeah. And as you mentioned, Adam, like you get a couple of little character moments in the midst of it, like Big Bopper. Like Big Bopper's a nothing, but you get this sense of what he's like.
It's just straight away, right?
Immediately you see pointing a gun at two people fornicating in
giggling
to himself.
But then you get like when he's going there, you get this sense of he's really persistent with this, but only if he's allowed to drive the car. That's the type of bloke he is. Like you get this sense of that guy just from a couple of those shots. And like as you said, they're fucking ramming into things, and then he's kind of, we're back in the game. Like,
he's turning the. At one stage they're just on the side of the road. He's turning the key, and she fires up, and he's like, yes, and he's straight back into it.
My car made that noise once, with the fan belt. I'll shit myself. He was just like, let's go.
The other thing too was I remember the Knight Rider just being like really ridiculous, but this time around I was watching it and I'm like, he actually comes across as a fucking lunatic.
Yeah.
He actually he comes across as dangerous.
Oh, yeah,
all that crap is really, except when he's laughing, he looks like a bit of a tool. But when he's talking about the Knight Rider and all this sort of stuff, and it was like the ramblings of a lunatic.
Yeah.
You know, kind of, again, it made it kind of that little bit more exciting. I mean, shit.
Came
They
across
did
to me
this
as
on
a bogan.
$350,000 on the friggin' back roads of regional Victoria, and they've ended up with action that Michael Bay fucking dreams that he could produce, mate.
You know what? 350k. They used every dollar because they didn't have to get permits. They didn't have to pay for any permits or fucking insurance.
They're not greasing any palms. They're not doing anything.
Yeah. Oh, you can't shoot here, mate. Okay, just take it down the road. Just fire it off again.
Okay, how do we get to the next town over? Can you give us directions?
I mean, that opening sequence is just ridiculous. Like, it's just out, and it's a great way to kick it off. It really sort of throws you straight into it.
Yeah. And when the cars are colliding and stuff, you know there's no other way that they could do that other than crashing two cars together. That's exactly what they do.
Yeah. Should we do it at like 40 k's an hour? No. Let's do it at 100. It'll be fine.
I bet Grant Page was behind a lot of that. Let's jack the speed up a bit. It's not exciting enough. I might
barely broke a sweat there. You can go a bit.
at 40 Ks, I might have a scratch on me.
The lack of budget is actually kind of a positive because it gives the movie a really raw sort of quality, and there's an aesthetic that they're going for that actually ends up working because there is no money. You know, like the dark and dingy mechanic area in the police station, you know, it looks like money.
It's different to Thunderdome that way, because Thunderdome, they've sort of got a civilization. They've got a whole community of people, and it doesn't feel like that. It's like all in that two dimension of just one road.
Yeah.
The other three movies are all down one road, and that's it.
Yeah.
So, and it works in its favour as well. For this
You know,
one,
that was the car park at Melbourne Uni.
Was it?
I was looking at, you know, when I used to drive and park at the sticks at UC, they could have used that as a post-apocalyptic landscape as well. But yeah, it was like the underground car park at Melbourne Uni. They still talk about it. But yeah, it does provide, as you said, they had to use what they could.
Yeah.
And they found some really, really nice looking sets and things for what they had.
And I think that the low budget also helps the plot.
Yeah.
Because everything's been streamlined. Everything's been streamlined down.
I just think it doesn't take away from it, the movie, because the plot's good. The banter's good. It's entertaining. It's funny. It's got levity. It's got all the good stuff.
Yeah.
The scenery from the rural areas that they shot in too actually gives it a really kind of unique
Well,
look to it.
certainly from the idea that this one's not as post-apocalyptic as the others, but you get the sense, obviously, that it's a bit further it's a little bit into the future.
Yeah. Come to Road Warrior, things have escalated. quite a way.
Things have gone a long way. But quite frankly, I think that the fact that it's kind of shot in this, you know, grassy fields and stuff all around, it doesn't feel like a place where you'd have road gangs going at each other.
No.
But it strangely works.
And it ramps up like one particular scene where the couple are getting chased by the gang. It actually worked really well in the favour there because it just made it so isolated. It actually made that scene really scary.
Was that the one with the two guys, the woman and the guy in the...
Not in the bubble. Not in the bubble.
No, they were in the hotted up vehicle.
Yeah.
That was scary shit, mate.
It was actually really scary.
When you first meet the gang, you're kind of looking at their weird jackets and coats and stuff, and you're kind of like, they don't seem that menacing initially, but then when they chase them down, and I can only assume they raped them both.
Yeah.
It's quite unnerving to watch that.
Yeah.
It was very unsettling.
And it's one sequence that basically tells you Toe Cutter and Co are a pack of loose units.
They build it up too because they've got that menace about how they talk.
Yeah.
At the beginning, they're talking about picking up their friend from the station, and they're like, "Oh, there's no one here." And that is our friend. And it's powerful, like in terms of they're not quite all there.
No. And the way Toe Cutter takes people's heads in his hands and stuff and talks really slow to them.
Toe Cutter's actually really good. These little mannerisms that he has and the things that he says are just off kilter. They're just really strange. But
I was a fan of Kundalini.
Yeah, Kundalini. This is Kundalini's head. He had like his head back.
Okay, take it.
It was just...
Take it with you.
It was just so unsettling. I actually really liked the unique kind of Aussie spin that they put on this, because sometimes I watch, you know, Australian films and think, fuck, this is what we are, isn't it? It's fucking embarrassing. but other times you watch it and you're like, this wouldn't have worked out this way anywhere else in the world. And this is one of them. Like, just little things like the bloke fucking leading his head out of the caravan going, what's going on here? And Steve Bisley's there, seemingly with a busted leg, grinning at him going, oh no, I just got here. It's just fucking ridiculous, but so kind of humorous in the midst of this ball-tearing action sequence. And it's just, it's just so unique. And then I think Toe Cutter's got a little bit of that himself. Yeah. So yeah, I really enjoyed that.
I just love I'll tell you why I love the gang, because they were super. There was just this weirdness about them, and they'd all do something a little bit different, a little bit sort of strange when they got there, and it keeps things interesting.
Yeah.
And you're kind of sitting there going, like, it's not like one head guy and all these random Nevilles in the background. They've all got this bit of personality.
Yeah.
I think one guy's called Mudguts.
The part that Mudguts.
Candlelady and Mudguts.
The one that got me was when they're in the town and they've got that bloke that is seemingly part of the gang, but then they bloody spray a drink in his face or something. Next thing you know, they're punching him into the store and throwing him out the window.
Yeah.
I'm like, he's part of the gang, isn't he?
They're dogs to each other.
That's it. They're just kind of there's this strange those strange interactions, and you're like, well, if that's what they're like to their pals, like.
And I love the idea that the bad guys, the gang, are this lawless group, but so are the cops.
Yeah.
It's the same.
Yeah.
And that's what Max says, doesn't he? I don't want to become one of them.
Yeah.
When he wants to leave.
Says it's a Roger Ward.
Which is one of the funniest sequences I've ever seen.
Good to see Roger Ward strutting around in leather pants.
There's no shirt, a tie, a cigar sticking out of his mouth, and he's watering plants with this little miniature watering can. And there's like classical music playing. I'm like, what the fuck's going on in here? And who is he? Is he supposed to be like the commissioner or something? Because he's just rolling around
he's
the
clearly
whole...
someone in a position of power over there, like for who we see as the cops, he's the head of them.
Because he's in the Hall of Justice, which looks...
That's right, the Hall of Justice.
And I also love
if
the
that's
fact
what the Hall of Justice was going to look like in George Miller's Justice League, could have been in for a very interesting picture.
You know what was so funny about that too? When Max says, I'm done. He basically starts goading you and calling him a cat. I'm like, have you seen what I've been through recently? That's what I've been saying.
Yeah, I'll take a couple of weeks.
Think about it. Oh, man. I'm really thinking, I'm a bit like you, Jared, that those couple of scenes involving his family and Jim Goose just gives you enough. Like, it's strange that it's only probably a handful of minutes.
Yeah.
But it's enough to showcase that he cares about his wife and kid. He's a family man.
Yeah.
He's good mates with Goose. They get along well. And when they get killed, it hits hard.
Yeah.
And as an audience member, it hits hard too. I mean, I remember Goose's death and thinking, I remember this being a bit kind of untidy when I was a kid. I didn't like to see this bit. And then, of course, I realised when he gets knocked off the road, they're going to set him on fire.
Yeah.
And then they have that sequence where he's
Just
in the air tent and his hand falls
it's just
out.
simple, right?
Yeah.
I was just there like,
Simple but
oh,
effective.
Man.
Yeah, and they do the same thing. They don't, they don't overdo it with the wife and that too. Again, they use the action to raise that kind of exhilaration, and then they just have that iconic shot of the
Ball.
the
Her
shoe
running
and
away,
ball.
the shoe and the ball, yeah.
And that's all you need. Like, you don't need any more than that. The bike steaming off in the distance is like, you get the sense, okay, the job's done, and we see the symbols of what they were just fucking lying on the road. It's like...
I also love the sequence where she's in the forest. It's kind of foreboding. They do have two sequences in a row where Kundalini loses his hand. Why do you keep laughing?
It's a great name.
It's a great name.
Well, for starters, it wasn't necessary that he threw the fucking chain at the car. He fucking lost his hand, but he doesn't seem too phased about it too. When they ask for his hand back, he's cradling it like a bloody small kitten or something.
And then there's a sequence in the forest where they kill the dog.
Yeah.
Just chasing her around. It's foreboding, you didn't know something nasty's going to happen. But they kind of build it. They build it. They're on this. They're on this holiday together. But now this is going to turn into something real bad.
And this is where, again, this movie is a whole different experience for watching for someone from who grew up in Australia, because when they get back on the farm, it's the old bird from Prisoner that's
Lizzie Birdsworth.
that's running the show.
Oh, yeah.
And of course, Bisley was in Water Rats and rubbish like that. To see him as a young Jim Goose is always entertaining.
When they run his family down, mate, that was pretty of a kick in the guts, basically. You kind of really feel that.
Well, that's what like for what was essentially a cheap genre pick, to get those moments right really kind of put it over the top, really.
Yeah. definitely. And then when he goes crazy and decides to take him out, mate, that stuff is just golden. The entire final act of about 15 or 20 minutes when he goes after him is awesome. Yeah. It's really, really well done. I love when Toe Cutter gets his comeuppance by getting run over head on by a truck. And I love the eye bulge. His eyes bulge when he sees the truck.
That was a bit weird, I thought. But,
and I really like the ending with Johnny Boy where he just, you could cut through your handcuffs in 10 minutes or you can cut through your ankles.
Wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. You can see where they got the idea from, right?
Yeah, it was. That whole stretch was really good. Like you knew it was getting there, but then when it does it again, it's just.
And I just love it how it kind of just ends with him. It's kind of dark and it's satisfying in a way, but also unended because he's basically just roaming the road now.
Yeah. During that stretch is one of my big likes too, is that it reminded me of that stuntman that just about took his fucking head off with the motorbike.
The motorbike hit him in the back of the head.
And he's sliding down and then his bike, the front wheel of his bike, just nails him from behind. And again, he got up and walked away. How did they not kill someone?
George Miller said, let's do that again.
It didn't hit you hard enough. Can we get it?
We're only going 60k there, fellas. Come on, we need up there, Eddie. And Grant Page is going, get me on the bike. It's just like those sequences, though. You know that shot where they're looking at the speedo of the motorbike as it's absolutely flying down the road? That cameraman is holding a camera in a shirt, pair of stubbies, and a fucking phone. Talk about safety precautions. Should he wear a helmet? No, he'll get.
They would have green screened that now, and it just would have looked horrible.
Yeah. And you know what? I cannot believe that George Miller was a bloody doctor. He was an emergency room doctor.
Maybe that's why he was more open to doing these things, because he's like, look, if you're in some real strife, I can get things started while we're on the way to the hospital.
I mean, it is an absolute credit to the crew that they hung in. I don't know how.
Honestly, there would be some things I just would have said, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing that. I value my life.
He would have gone, okay, come on, you bloody...
Roger Ward and Grant Page would have been there berating you. Get on the bike, you big cunts.
Any more likes? Any more big likes there?
No, I think you covered most of mine there. Action? Did we mention the action?
Did we mention the opening 10 minutes, which is pure lunacy? Look, the acting is below par. Gibson is probably the best actor because he gets a few quiet moments. Everyone else is just screaming and yelling and going overboard.
But they actually, I mean, for what they had to work with, they actually managed to get a bunch of people that ended up having pretty solid acting careers.
The performances were passable in some cases, like Toe Cutter. Mm-hmm. He was passable.
I thought he was good.
My personal favourite's the guy who rolls over, he sees Mel's wife coming out of the store, and he mumbles something about how, dinner time and my favourite dish, women. It just is awful.
That was, he only had one line.
And Johnny Boy was tragically bad. He was bloody hopeless.
And a pest as well.
I'm surprised they didn't strap him in by the car.
Johnny, how about you come over here and hold this camera for us?
No, the acting, I guess, was you had to pick your boys.
Exactly. And I think, to have basically unearthed Mel Gibson, who, before he turned into a full-blown lunatic, just had enough lunatic to make him
do you think it's David Miller and Page and his later issues? You know I was in 3 Mad Max movies with these idiots.
True, I hadn't thought of it that way. The music was probably the biggest factor that I felt hadn't aged all that well.
Yeah.
Like, sometimes it's ill-fitting or just overdone.
There are a couple of times where it's playing in this really sort of, you know, it's supposed to be like an emotional, scary scene, and basically they're just having a chat. It's like, yeah, well, no, we don't.
Well, there was one. I think there was one where when Max is on leave and him and his wife are like by a river having a chat.
Oh yeah.
It sounds like bloody Little House on the Prairie or something. It's just. I don't know. I think maybe that was a product of the money too. They just had to take what they could and try to fit it in. But yeah, it's a bit of a.
The composer was Brian May, not the Queen's Brian May, another Brian May.
It's a bit. It's a bit. Because he did the second one too. I think
it's a little bit intrusive.
Yeah, it is in the first one. After that, it's not quite so bad. I didn't really notice it as much, but in this one, there was just points where I was like, "Oh, Jesus, that doesn't really fit." That's kind of taking me out of things a little bit.
The sped up footage, I get why it's there. You know, you're adding a frantic and speedier element to the car scenes. But at times it looks a bit silly. Like it sort of comes in and it's kind of like... There's one in particular where a bloke's waving a flag and you see the sped up shot and it's going... way too quick.
It's a fine line between artistic and Benny Hill.
Yeah, that's right. It's close. It's close.
Benny Hill is art. What are you talking about?
I mean, if those... Admittedly, that was probably their safety precautions.
Yeah. I think that was a concerned pedestrian saying, "You're going to kill someone out here."
It looks a little bit weird because a couple of times they intercut it in between sequences where it's all legit.
Yeah.
So it kind of takes you out a little bit.
Yeah. It's not like there's full sequences of it. It's just a random shot here. And there.
And it's kind of like, oh shit! You know, a minute ago we would low down at road level as a motorbike goes 100 k's an hour.
Yeah.
And now you're speeding it up.
Yeah.
Never good to see a bloke running through a field with no pants on and what looks to be blood coming from his ass.
No. And
that was untidy.
And to have Gibson and Goose talking about, what are they saying? They're saying, "Oh, he's a real weirdo, this one," or something like that. He's clearly been through something here.
Yeah.
Have a bit of compassion.
They had raped the girl.
Yes.
But they'd also raped him.
Seemingly, yeah.
Or done something quite cruel to him. Not really my favourite part of the film.
No. Even worse, though, was... I was quite shocked, to be honest, when Goose is blowing up at the police station because no one turned up to testify against Johnny Boy or whatever his name was. Roger Ward says, "Oh, she was just a town bike."
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, that just sounds fucking awful. Like, that's a justification for anything.
Yeah.
Like, it's showing us aged really badly, but the fact that it was even in there is just...
Yeah, a little bit seedy.
That would have been a chuckle on the day.
Very seedy. Well, that's it. At the time,
probably
you kind of just... I mean, you could almost imagine someone like Roger Ward with his kind of reputation or the films that he was making almost kind of fucking ad-libbing something like that. But it was just, it's pretty...
Product of its
rough.
time, which we could do without.
Yes.
Put it that way. The last thing for me was, look, if a group of bikies are after me, I'm not running down the centre of the road. I'm actually jumping the nearest fence and taking off across the fields, mate.
That's it. I'm backing myself in. If I've got 100 start, if I can get over that fence and give myself 50 to 100 before they jump off the bikes, I think I'm a chance.
Short steps, and then into the long stride. So we're breaking
10
out.
15 of short, explosive, choppy steps, and then into the loping strides.
Admittedly, I'm in such bad shape that I'm probably going to get another 100 in. Oh,
they're having a big one.
Hard to get run over. Yeah, I didn't really have much else.
I had one, and it's that I forgot that they basically stumbled back across the gang. I felt like the way it had been set up was that Toe Cutter and the gang would track them down somehow or hang around the same kind of
area,
vicinity and just stumble across them that way. But the fact that they piss off on a road trip and find them there by accident is a bit
sort of convenient.
Yeah. But it was just part and parcel, really. It was
minor
injury. The plot was just very, very thin, so to take that along with it was like, yeah, okay, I'll just go with that. I'll run with it.
Anything else?
That's it for me, I think.
No. All right, that's Mad Max. You can find us on Podomatic, iTunes and Spotify. Send us an email at thrillme@iinet.net.au. Like us on Facebook at Thrill Me Podcast Australia, at Podomatic at thrillme.podomatic.com, and on Instagram at thrillmepodcastau. Our next episode, we will continue with the Mad Max franchise, Mad Max 2, The Road Warrior. But until then, take it easy, and we'll catch up with everyone later. Cheers. Find the podcast at Podomatic or on iTunes. Don't forget to rate and review. Like us on Facebook at Thrill Me Podcast Australia, or contact us at thrillme, all one word, all lowercase, at iinet.net.au.